Hey guys, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I really like first sentences in books. I put quite a lot of importance on them, and especially as the writer myself, I definitely strive to always have the best first paragraph possible. Because personally, I always find that it puts me in a really good mood when I pick up a book and I really love the first sentence. And so as a writer, I want to evoke that in other people. And also as a reader, I just think first sentences are really fun. And so today I wanted to go over some of my favorite first sentences. So I went through my bookshelf and I looked at every single book that I've read, and I read the first sentence or the first paragraph, and I picked some that really stand out to me. And I think this will also be nice as a kind of taste for the book itself. So if you're interested in any of these books, then maybe you will want to then pick them up if that first sentence really appeals to you. So the only classic that I have on this list is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And I really like the first sentence in this. So this is the first sentence of A Christmas Carol. Marley was dead, to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it. So I really like this opening because I think it speaks a lot to the voice of the book itself and the tone, the theme of the book itself. So obviously A Christmas Carol is about a very miserable man who really hates Christmas. And then he gets visited 3 nights in a row by 3 ghosts that try to show him a different way to look at life. Okay, moving on to the big fat fantasy pile of books whose first sentences I really like. Start off with Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. And the first sentence of Six of Crows is: Joost had 2 problems, the moon and his mustache. Yeah, the continuation after the first sentence is also really good, but I'm not gonna read too much of it. But so you will see a theme with all of these first sentences. I like funny, witty, sort of dramatic first sentences. And this is definitely one of them. And I actually don't think it does, I don't think it speaks that well for the book itself, for the themes and the things like that, but it just catches your attention because it's funny and it's random and it's like, what? And it's the kind of first sentence that just makes you want to read more. So it's doing its job. Next book is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and the first sentence is as follows. The night before he went to London, Richard Mayhew was not enjoying himself. Again, I think this does a very good job of conveying the tone of the book and the voice of the main character. Next first sentence is from The Magicians by Lev Grossman, and this, oh, I love this first sentence so much. It's one of the ones that I actually remember by heart because most of these I don't remember, but this has always stuck to me because it's just really cool. Okay, so I'll read it to you. Quentin did a magic trick. Nobody noticed. Now, that might not sound that impressive to you, but again, I just think it does such a good job of conveying the tone and the voice and the theme, and it's just very good. Very well done. Next book is called Solace by Gail Carriger. And for this one, I'm going to read you the first paragraph because I think it does its job as a whole thing rather than simply the first sentence. Miss Alexia Tarabotti was not enjoying her evening. Private balls were never more than middling amusements for spinsters, and Miss Tarabotti was not the kind of spinster who could garner even that much pleasure from the event. To put the pudding in the puff, she had retreated to the library, her favorite sanctuary in any house, only to happen upon an unexpected vampire. So I think just the language chosen in this paragraph and the different nuances, just you can clearly tell the voice in this and you can clearly get a sense of Miss Tarbot and the kind of stuff that happens in this book. Next is one that conveys the atmosphere of the book more than a character necessarily, but you could argue that it also conveys character, and I'll tell you what I mean after I read you the first paragraph. The circus arrives without warning. No announcements preceded, no paper notices or downtown posts and billboards, no mentions or advertisements in local newspapers. It is simply there, when yesterday it was not. I don't think I mentioned, this is Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And what I meant about conveying a character, well, you could argue that the circus is a character in of itself. The circus is almost a character. And it's such a fantastic atmosphere, and I think that first paragraph conveys it very well. And the last book in the fantasy pile of best first sentences goes to my favorite book of all time, Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. It was night again, the Waystone Inn, and it was a silence of 3 parts. So, the reason I think this is such a great first sentence is the last part. It was a silence of 3 parts. For those of you who have not read the series, you will know that it's meant to be 3 books, and each book represents 1 night of storytelling from the main character. So, a silence of 3 parts. 3 nights, 3 books, 3 parts of a story, and I just think that encapsulates it so well, and I just love the choice of words in it, I think. And yeah, Patrick Rothfuss is fantastic at word choices and at sentences, and I strive to be like him one day. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise, since it is my favorite book of all time, that it's also one of my favorite sentences. Okay, and next pile is YA Contemporary. Now, looking at my shelf when I went through and tried to find these first sentences, I knew they would all have really, really good first sentences. And I was right. I mean, I had a really long list. I think it was about 30 books initially, and then I had to narrow it down to, I think, I have about 12 now. But definitely the biggest pile was the YA Contemporary, and I think it's one of the reasons I love the genre so much, because the voice is so poignant and it's so fantastic. And obviously that stands clear, you know, the first time you open the book and you read the first sentence, and the voice and the theme is very clear in them. That's why I love reading this genre, and one of the reasons I love writing it as well. So the first book is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. Is today a good day to die? This is something I ask myself in the morning when I wake up. In the third period, when I'm trying to keep my eyes open while Mr. Schroden drones on and on. At the supper table as I'm passing the green beans. At night, when I'm lying awake because my brain won't shut off due to all there is to think about. Is today the day? And if not today, when? As that first paragraph conveys, this is not a happy story. This is a very sad story. But I think that beginning does a fantastic job at showing you what to expect in this book. Next is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. This is a contemporary thriller. And the first paragraph. A sex tape. A pregnancy scare. 2 cheating scandals. And that's just this week's update. If all you knew of Bayview High was Simon Keller's gossip app, you'd wonder how anyone found time to go to class. There's a lot of questions that rise from reading that first paragraph, and that stands true because it's a thriller, so there should be questions. Hopefully answers. There are answers. Next is Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jessie Andrews, and this is one of the books that has one of the best first pages, first chapters. Unfortunately, I just feel like that's the best part of this book. So I loved the beginning of this, but then it just kind of peters out. So anyway, I still love the beginning of it though. So this is a note from Greg Gaines, author of this book. I have no idea how to write this stupid book. Can I just be honest with you for a second? This is the literal truth. When I first started writing this book, I tried to start it with the sentence, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I genuinely thought that I could start this book that way. I just figured it's a classic book starting sentence. But then I couldn't even figure out how you were supposed to follow that up. I stared at the computer for an hour, and it was all I could do not to have a colossal freakout. In desperation, I tried messing with the punctuation and italicization, like it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. What the hell does that even mean? Why would you even think to do that? You wouldn't, unless you had a fungus eating your brain, which I guess I probably have. It goes on like this, and I love this first chapter. I love the voice in this. And the voice definitely continues throughout, but I just think it's not as hard-hitting and funny in the rest of the book as it is in this first chapter. Okay, and now I have 2 books by the same author, which was actually the author that I had the most books from in this long list. It's John Green, and John Green's books, I think all of them can be in this category. All of John Green's books have such fantastic first sentences. And I mean, he is my favorite YA contemporary author, so, you know, that probably has a lot to do with it, but I genuinely think he's fantastic at beginnings. He's fantastic at everything. But as I looked through, like every single one of his books, I was like, yep. And then I had to narrow it down because I would just be showing you all of John Green's books. So anyway, the first one I'm going to talk about, and it's probably, I think, his most famous one, The Fault in Our Stars. And it has a really good first paragraph. It is a sentence, it's just a long. Late in the winter of my 17th year, my mother decided I was depressed. Presumably because I rarely left the house, spent quite a lot of time in bed, read the same book over and over, and ate infrequently, and devoted quite a bit of my abundant free time to thinking about death. I'm sure most of you have read this book or have seen the movie or at least have some idea of what this book is about, but this book is about kids with cancer and trying to live with that. And the other one is An Abundance of Catherines, and the first sentence. The morning after, noted child prodigy Colin Singleton graduated from high school and got dumped for the 19th time by a girl called Catherine. He took a bath. Colin had always preferred baths. One of his general policies in life was never to do anything standing up that could just as easily be done lying down. He climbed into the tub as soon as the water got hot, and he sat and watched with a curiously blank look on his face as the water overtook him. Again, I think you can clearly see a theme with all of these first sentences. They're kind of witty and dramatic and very voicey, and that's really what I like in general in books, and it's the kind of stuff that catches my attention really, really quickly. And so, yeah, those were my favorite first sentences of books that I've read, at least the books that I've had on my shelf. I didn't actually go through like books I have on Kindle. This already took way too long, trying to sift through all of the books and figure which ones had the best first sentences. But yeah, how do you guys feel about this? If you pick up books in a bookstore and just turn to the front page and read the first paragraph, if you don't like the first paragraph, if it doesn't catch your attention, do you put it down or do you continue reading it? That's super interesting, and I think obviously as someone who wants to publish books in the future and who's hoping to have her books in bookstores one day, you know, I think that's a big thing because there's so many options out there, and if someone does decide to randomly pick up your book and start reading it, how can you make them continue reading? How can you make them want to buy that book and continue reading? And I think that's why a lot of these books have such fantastic sentences, because after all, writers are trying to make a living from their art, and sometimes that's difficult in a very saturated market, which at least YA is. And so the quicker you catch that reader's attention, preferably from the first sentence, the more likely it is that they will buy the book and really, really like it, hopefully. So, you know, as a writer, this is something I definitely keep in mind every single time I write a book. And it's definitely the one place I go back to the most and edit and revise until I feel like I have that perfect, because I don't know. It's something that I really like in books, and it makes me happy, and it's something that I want to have in my own books. So that was a list of some of my favorite first sentences. I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, do let me know your thoughts on everything and if you put much importance on first sentences or not, and why you may or may not do that. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time with a new video. Bye!